Oh dear, what can the matter be?
Hello everybody, this is Brian O'Haron again. It's the second quarterly review of the new administration that started in November. May 8th, 2010 marked the end of the second quarter of the 2009-2011 administration in the town of Winchester, and I'm constantly asked by many town folk to continue to highlight the urgent need for 5-year objectives for obtaining a significant increase in additional profitable recurring tax revenue each year, and the need for the creation of a town by exception mechanism for managing to achieve each year's objectives and future year's objectives. Over the next 17 months, almost 7 months have gone by already, I will continue to report progress or comment on these needs on a quarterly basis. This stuff moves slow. It's going to take a long time for this town manager to resolve some of these problems, but over time we're hoping that he will be a success. This is the second such program. Our current 5-year plan continues to be a blank sheet of paper to the best of my knowledge, although I think that the town manager is working on some objectives. I don't know what the progress is there. It's not public information yet as far as I know. Because of the lack of a crystal ball, I have constructed a straw man for a 5 and 10-year set of revenue objectives using the previous 5 and 10-year revenue budget averages, and presented it at the first financial quarter review meeting 3 months ago. The town manager and the financial director will have to coordinate the construction of the actual official 5-year revenue plan and the associated quarterly objectives to support the top-level revenue objectives. My guest tonight is again a blank piece of paper that symbolizes the lack of an existing set of 5-year revenue objectives for the town of Winchester and a mechanism to achieve them. Welcome back again, blank sheet of paper. This is the 2009-2011 administration second quarterly financial objective review. It's unofficial. It's Brian's program, not the town's. On May 19, 2010, and it will be repeated on May 26, 2010, June 2nd, 2010, and June 9th, 2010. If any significant information comes up in this regard, I will add a little to the repeat verbally to bring you up to date. The next quarterly financial objective review, quarter number 3, the one we're in now, will be around the end of August, and early June for the repeats, 2010. Watch for it and suggest to your friends to watch for it. And students from the university should watch for it. And students from Gilbert High School, if they're interested in finance, should watch for it. Finance or management. So the agenda for tonight will be my comments, which I already read, the highlights of the last quarter review that we had, the first financial review, just touch upon that briefly. Then I want to talk a bit about Torrington's 2009 revaluation results and their effect on that community, which were announced a few days after my first quarterly review. So I saved them, saved the newspaper article. I'm just going to give you some of the highlights of that. Then I'm going to spend a good deal of time, I hope, talking about the town manager, the new town manager, businessman, master's degree in business. Great thing for our town, 30 years experience in the financial industry, wonderful for our town, and a real go-getter, a real doer. He's a man who I believe, after seeing him in action for 7 months or so, be a real doer. He gets things done. Now, I want to point out at the beginning of the program to you that my background is CEO. I've been a CEO, a Chief Executive Officer, a Chief Operating Officer around the world, various companies, and a systems analyst in the computer industry. And I have a lot of experience at identifying good people rapidly because I had to do it for a living, and I was very good at it. So I have a expertise there that was developed over 40 years, and 20 more if you want to add my youth, 20 or 30 more. And it was taught to me by many businessmen along the way and by experience around the world. So I can size things up pretty quickly. And I have, in my opinion, unless something comes out of the woodwork here, pretty much sized up this new town manager. And I'll just talk a bit about that tonight. And then I wanted to go over tonight 2 simple solutions to make the town of Winchester well-balanced financially. As we know now, we're not too well-balanced financially. And it will take a long time to be able to do that. But there are a couple simple things that can be done to balance the town financially, and I want to discuss those a little bit tonight. Now, it's not easy to do these simple things, but if we can do them, and we don't get dragged down into the quicksand too much, and we're able to concentrate on the real issues, then we might be able to succeed. So, highlights of quarter 1. Last time, I talked about Connecticut Magazine's November 2009 study that ranked Winchester as tied for number 22 in a list of 23 comparable towns in Connecticut that were between 10 and 15,000 in population in the state. So on most of the categories, we were on the bottom. We were on the top on one, and that was inexpensive town to live in. We were right up at the top in that category. Also, in the first quarterly review, I talked about an article that was in the Republican American, Waterbury Republican American, on January 4th, 2010. The article was entitled, "Keep It Simple and Thrive." And it told about towns in an area of Connecticut, not our area, but another area, which included Waterbury and places like that, that were very successful in getting more jobs added to their town. Now we sit here tonight, and over the next few weeks, with the stock market dropping again, a lot of people not being able to afford tax increases, and we're kind of being dragged down by the socialistic countries in Europe right now. And we don't know where the end is or the bottom is, and we can't predict that. But it's not likely to be very good in the near future. But anyway, this article pointed out, in a time when it's very difficult to get jobs, that over the last 10 years, Oxford, Connecticut, grew 49%, the number of jobs in their town. They were ranked at the top of the list of towns in that area with superior job growth over the past 10 years. Using the town of Winchester's 10-year average revenue growth of about 3%, oh, more maybe, not much, including an average 10-year tax increase of 4%, which is not bad for a town of our category. On this program, I presented a straw man showing the same rate of revenue growth over the next 10 years if nothing is done to change the pattern. And that seems to be happening. Right now, they're putting together going to a referendum with a budget that could be about 3.1%, according to an article I read quoting the town manager, for various reasons, which I don't want to get into in this program because I'm trying to concentrate on other things here. Enough people are concentrating on the budget. But we're going to be kind of what I predicted we would be if nothing else was done, and it'll probably be the same next year and the same in the following year. On average, it'll be up in that 3 to 3.3% range, and an average probably of about a 4% tax increase. So we're a little below on the tax increase this time. So, but it'll average out over time unless we do something about it. To improve the situation, a 5-year plan for the town, updated annually and reviewed quarterly by the Finance Board, is needed. I know of no such plan now. I know there was a capital plan in the past, and there may still be one, but it was described to me once as being a very fictitious plan. It's not well put together, and it doesn't usually happen according to plan for one reason or another. Not good plan. Now, the Torrington 2009 revaluation, there's been a lot in the papers recently about that, and maybe you've read it, maybe you haven't, but I'm presenting this tonight because I want to show you how Torrington has managed to change the balance of the taxes in their town from being mostly over the last X years since the last revaluation. The brunt of the tax burden was on the homeowners, and during this last revaluation, which was kind of controversial down there, they changed evaluators and all that kind of thing, and the process was very controversial, still is, but the tax burden has shifted to the businesses and industry in Torrington. They bear more of the burden of the tax now than the homeowners. So before that, it was shifted to the homeowners by the previous revaluation. Now it's shifted back to that. Now, there's a reason for that. There's a lot of things happening in Torrington. If you drive through there, any end of town you want to go to, there's a lot happening. Big box stores going in, stop and shops, shopping centers, new car dealerships, Target down there. So lots happening. But anyway, I don't want to spend too much time on it tonight, but I want to show you that it can be done and over time. It won't happen overnight, and that they had a 21% average increase. If you remember, our last average increase was 40% or so on our last revaluation. And the sharp rise in average commercial property, this is the important point I'm trying to make here, values went up 32% over the last 5 years, and that's 32%. The average was 21% for the whole town. Home prices grew over the period, 5-year period, at an average of 22%. So you can see the shift, 22% to the previous 32 or 34, I can't remember what it was, let me look. 32% for the commercial and 22% for the home prices. The tax burden has shifted to commercial from residential homeowners in Torrington. It may not stay that way forever, but it's that way now, and that's good for the homeowners, and that's good for the businesses too, because even though they bear the burden of the taxes by a percentage, the homeowners will have more money to spend in their stores and in their businesses. So it's good. The more money you can put in the pockets of the homeowners and the people in town that pay the taxes, the more they can spend in their area if there are shops there to do so. The personal property, which is cars and trucks and boats, and but mostly comes from businesses, industrial and commercial businesses. The personal property taxes grew by a healthy 3.9% in 1 year. They measure that every year, and whereas the reval is only done every 5 years now. A few years ago, it was done every 10 years. And the source for this is the Waterbury Republican American about 3 months ago when I did my first program. Now, I want to talk a bit about the town manager. I've got plenty of time here, so I'm going to concentrate on two major issues. First will be the town manager. When people become the CEO of a company, or they become the CEO of a town, there are a lot of things they want to do to make sure that they can succeed when they take the job. It's a big commitment for anybody. It's an even bigger commitment for a town manager, and I'll explain that in a few minutes. But a lot of times when I was asked to take these kind of jobs, the first thing I wanted to do was make sure, and I talked about this on the program over the last 2.5 years now, is I wanted to make sure that I had a chance to succeed, that there would be an environment for success. And that environment would include the board of directors backing me, not every little thing, but on the major issues they wanted resolved, and my management, if any, backing me and supporting me. And what we call in business, giving me the air cover that I needed to be successful and accomplish the job that I would be hired to do. Now, in my case, I first tried to make sure before I joined the company that I had that commitment. And towards the end of my last 20 or so years of my career, what I did was I insisted on a 5-year contract. And I said, okay, you've committed to do this, to give me the air cover I need to get this very difficult job done in so many years, usually about 4 or 5 years. I need a 5-year contract, and I will stay and honor that contract as long as you honor your commitment to give me the air cover that I need to get the job done. Because without the air cover and the backing and the teamwork and the help that I need, then I wouldn't be able to be successful. It wouldn't help me and my future, it wouldn't help the company and its future, or its customers and their futures, or its employees and their futures. So normally, in the last 20 years, so they'd hire me after we got the environment set up right, and I had also asked to bring in some experts with me that I knew top-notch and could trust, would do the job and could run as fast as I could, and that kind of thing. And then what would happen is the board of directors or the company CEO, if I was beneath the CEO, would say to the rest of the company, okay, we brought Brian in to do this job by this date. Please help him. And please give him the support he needs. And don't get in his way. Don't try to micromanage him or to try to make him fail. We all want to succeed. Well, it looks like now the town manager, having a lot of experience and good education and a lot of experience and having all the personal qualities needed to do this job in an excellent manner, He's a businessman. He's got the experience and the education. It looks like he has now satisfied himself that the environment he is in which is a difficult environment, doesn't have the best reputation for supporting town managers. It looks to me like he has determined that he will get the support from the leaders in this town, selectmen, board of finance, town management, and all the commissions and everybody else. So he looks like he feels pretty confident that he can get the support to get this job done. So since the last program, the town manager has decided to remain as permanent town manager one way or another. Now there are some things that have to happen there. We have to pass a change in November to the charter, which allows somebody from outside of Winsted to be the town manager. Now if that doesn't pass, then one way or another, he'll either have to get an apartment in town or rent a room or do whatever it takes to be a resident so that he can remain town manager, or he would have to say, I don't want to do that, and now I don't know exactly where that stands. I don't know if that's still being negotiated, but those are the next steps. But in the meantime, at least till November, the town manager is here to stay. He's doing a wonderful job, in my opinion. And I only know what I read in the papers. I have not talked to the town manager in person since I went in to talk to him about my green papers and the need for revenue, well, a week or so after he got back from after Christmas, and was only in the job a few weeks, so we didn't have much to talk about. But I haven't talked to him since, and I try to stay away from him because I can see that he knows as much, if not more, perhaps a lot more than I know about how to do this thing. And he's going to do a good job. So far, from what I see in the papers, I don't watch any of the TV programs. They drive me crazy. But he has asserted himself, this businessman has asserted himself as the CEO of the town of Winchester. And I get that feedback from a lot of people in the town. They are convinced that this guy is good. He's a native of the town. Everybody knows him. They know he can do the job. They know what his character is like, his qualities are like, providing his health remains good. Let's pray for that he will do a good job. So this guy is bigger now than the selectman. Pardon me. He's doing the CEO job as a businessman. And he has asserted his authority, and he seems very decisive. There's no mincing words here. He doesn't give a big, long speech like an educator would. He just gives you the bottom line like a poet would, and a businessman would. He seems very decisive, and so far seems to have acted, in my opinion, apolitically. Now, I know that having done it myself in the past a bit, you do have to throw a bone once in a while to the people, as long as it doesn't destroy the intention of the job and its objectives, and that's okay. We don't all agree with every little decision made, but with the major decisions, you're doing a fine job. Apolitically, in the best interest of the town. Not in the best interest of the Democratic Party, not in the best interest of the Independent Party or the Republican Party. And he has identified with the taxpayers. He's made statements that I read in the paper where he wants to keep the taxpayer needs in focus as well, which is any good businessman would do. That's called customer satisfaction. He said in the paper that he considers the taxpayers customers of the town of Winchester as well as the owners. So that's good. Now, he's done these things apolitically in the best interest of the town while somewhat resisting the expected, we all expected, the bureaucracy and the expected micromanagement by the selectmen in the majority of the administration, who have a tendency to try to micromanage town managers, in my experience, and that's what most people in town feel. Let's let the guy get on and do the job. Give him the backing he needs. Give him the support he needs, and let's keep him for the 4 or 5 years that'll be necessary or more to get this job done. Get us on our feet, get us going, and get on with it. Now, the town manager has expressed interest in the need for a couple of very, 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 very important things. There's a lot of things he's expressed interest in, but the two that I'm most interested in are the town manager has expressed interest in the need for more revenue. He has been reported in March 16, 2010, Waterbury Republican American, I got this from that paper article, as saying, this town needs to find alternative revenue sources. We've been talking about that for years. That was a push the Republican Party had when they were in power and continued to have while they were in the minority. But the town needs to find alternative revenue sources to affect expenditures and do a better job of economic development planning. These are the words right from the article, and I'm assuming they're correct. And even more importantly than that, he has said in the same article that it is critical. I can't emphasize that enough, said the town manager. Now, how more explicit can you be? He has been reported by the same source as also recommending that the town planning department identify all alternative revenues mapped to needed capital improvements and to present them to the voters later in the year. Now, of course, it would be best if this is presented in such a way that it's not a good tax increase, but that will be very difficult to swallow because we're just heading for a 3.1% tax increase or so, and all of it might not be spent. I don't want to get into all that now, but should the education department not spend about $98,000 of it, then it'll stay in the fund balance, according to the town manager. The town manager also said no stone should be left unturned in this regard. The key is to implement improvements. Now, this is results orientation. The town manager is trying to focus us in the area of getting more of this revenue. I always say let's try to get more profitable additional tax revenue. Losing one pizza house and getting another pizza house about the same time isn't going to really help us too much in that respect, although it's nice to have pizza houses. I don't have a problem with that. Or losing one small shop and replace it with another small shop. That isn't what we really need. We need to get out and get additional profitable revenue. Those are Brian's words, not the town manager's. He wants revenue. And to be honest with you, I think he's happy just to increase the revenue base as much as he can, and he needs it. Now, while we're talking about that, I want to say that we don't have a director of planning now in our town, because the one we had resigned at the beginning of the year. So we've been, what now, 5, 6, 7 months, going on 7 months maybe, at least 6 months, without a town manager. Without a town planning director. And he has mentioned in a paper I read that at one of the meetings that we do need this planning director pronto, because we need him or her to get us some more grant money. in here. Now, I particularly don't think grant money is the main target. He does, that's okay with me if he does, but it should be, it's very important, and we do need to continue to try to get grant money. But what we really need more than that is a town planning director to help us get us more profitable recurring revenue from either the developments or from new industry in town, more jobs in town, more businesses in town, maybe some big box store or two in town that doesn't compete with what we have here already. The Target store that was put up on East Main Street in Torrington, Target store alone is valued at $10 million in their grand list. $10 million. Just that. Their top valuation in Torrington is $22 million or so. Our top one is 12 or so. The shopping center we have here in our area. So it's very important that we get this town planning director. Now, it's a little bit of a mixed bag not having one, because it puts the town manager a little closer to the real problems, because he is he's filling in for this part of the job of the town planning director. And he's learning rapidly. One of the things about people like the existing town manager with his education and experience and his personal attributes is that they learn fast. It doesn't take them long to size up people, because that's what they do all their life. And when you have experience doing it around the world, where people speak different languages and have different customs and different religions and different lifestyles and different everything, then you learn even faster. It doesn't take long to size up people when you have his experience. And from what I can see, he's done a very good job of that here so far. So we have money in the next budget for the planning director. I think it's about $50,000. If the budget gets passed, then he'll be able to fund that. Now, personally, I think that if he doesn't get the budget passed on the first shot, it would be nice if he could find some money to get that planning director in, because it's so critical to our future. And a lot of the little things we're spending money on is not as important to getting that planning director in my opinion. But it's his judgment, it's up to him, and I'm sure he'll do the best he can for the town of Winchester. So there are many, many, many examples I could cite from the newspapers and from people giving me feedback on the street and around town and talking to people about the things that they like about this town manager. He has won over the town, and he is in control of his destiny. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying he doesn't have a lot of work to do to make sure everybody keeps pulling the oars in the same direction. But he seems to be doing it. I'm sure it's not easy. And I hope he can continue to do it. And I hope that the rest of the town management, although giving him advice and giving him opinions, will not try to micromanage and misdirect this town manager. Because I don't think most of them on there, especially in the minority, don't have anywhere near the experience. I mean, they're not even in the same league as, by far, as this guy. On the Republican side, the minority side, we do have a lot of business experience. Not so in the minority area. So they have to leave it. I think that's probably why they chose this person, because they knew they didn't have the experience, and they needed somebody like him to get this job done. And again, I'm not belittling the last town managers, because I think they tried to do their best as well, but for one reason or another were not able to get in the command they needed to in their job. Now, the other thing I want to talk about tonight, and and the two will marry here before I'm done. We need to get two things in here. One of the things the town manager said is to reduce school expenditures dramatically. Now, these are not his words. I will give you his words in a minute. But we need to reduce the school expenditures dramatically. And normally when you are a businessman owning your own business, if you're a businessman running someone else's business as CEO or COO or anything like that, or any major position, you look for redundancies. You look for things that are duplications, and you try to eliminate redundancies to save money. You don't want two of one thing when you only need one. Now, in my green papers, I did have a page on cost saving, which I don't dwell upon, but it's getting so important now, I thought I'd talk a bit about it tonight on this program. And that is that anywhere where there are two of these or three of those, and we only need one of those, we got to get rid of everything that's a duplication or triplication. We've been talking about that for years. The whole town talks about that. But we've never been able to achieve it. And the biggest area where that could happen is in the education area, because that's 65%, give or take a fraction, of our budget. Any businessman that didn't look at the largest piece of the budget, especially when it's 2/3 of the budget, to find savings, would not be worth his salt. Now, it was reported by the same source, Republican American, Waterbury Republican American, on April 2nd, that's a month and a half ago, April 2nd, 2010, that when the town manager was asked by Selectman Glenn Albanesius, one of the selectmen with business experience, if he knew how much money could be saved by moving 7th and 8th grades to Gilbert. The town manager estimated $2 to $5 million, as it was reported in the paper. Now, we won't hold him to those numbers. I'm sure that it was an estimate that he gave at, spur of the moment, but I'm sure he's pretty close to being right. And it doesn't matter if he's only half right. That would be $1 to $2.5 million. Not bad. And if he were only a quarter right, it'd still be a lot of money that we'd save. We'd be looking for efficiency. So the town manager was reported as saying that he thinks if we move 7th and 8th grades to Gilbert, the town manager estimated $2 to $5 million in savings. That's worth paying some attention to. And furthermore, he said, as reported by this article, I am confident that as long as everybody pulls together and work together, then it could be done. The only thing stopping you is not getting going. So here's our town manager, CEO of the town, in control of the town, now making a statement like that. Now, it's very important for the town manager because the more money that we can save in the school will not only help us to do better education in the school system and more efficiently, but it'll help the town by providing more money for the town to do some of its things more effectively. So what the town manager, I saw reported in a paper, I didn't write it here, but he suggests that we look at very hard at putting together a little team. So far, the team is the town manager and the two superintendents, Salerno and Cressy. They meet and they talk about this to see what they can do to try to help get all these things working together and to run more efficiently and effectively and costing less money. And when you consider the town and its resources, then you have some triplication in these work that maybe a lot of that could be reduced from triplication to one set of individuals doing those jobs. So for a long time, people in town, many, many years, have been talking about this. Now, I want to say a couple things here before I go on, and that is that there's been a lot of dissension in town, and a lot of finger pointing, and a lot of letter writing, and a lot of screaming and yelling, and a lot of this and that, about how you approach this problem. I tend to think the town manager is approaching in the right manner, out of frustration probably, because he needs to see this get done with 65% of our budget. But normally, when you're an executive or you're a system analyst, you always look for ways to get everybody working together, to take what you have already, with all the experience you have in the existing systems, and try to evolve them in the right direction with the agreement of all parties in a fairly expeditious manner to get where you want to go. So you try to build teamwork where you have right now what it seems to be the Gilbert School faction versus the Board of Education and the K through 8 faction. And I don't want to talk about all that here tonight. You can read about it in newspapers, but we got to get past that. What we have to do is get everybody working together to come up with one united K through 12, Town of Winchester school system, using the best parts from what we have already. So it needs to be a cooperative effort. And where there's space available now, we should use it. We shouldn't have empty spaces in our buildings when it's costing us a lot of money to keep the buildings open, to heat them, to run them, etc. So, and there even the possibility, if we could get rid of a lot of the duplication and triplication in an evolutionary, sensible manner, then we might even be able to afford more teachers. We might even solve some of our problems where we say maybe that the K through 8 isn't providing people to Gilbert that have the right level of grading. So that all has to be looked at. It has to be done. Now, I do think I read in the paper where the town manager said he was in favor of a K through 12 system for the town of Winchester, of course. It's just a question of how you get there. Now, there are people who say, let's chuck it Gilbert. Let's throw it out, take it over, and build a brand new K through 12 school on some other property. Well, that's kind of a ridiculous way to go about it, in my opinion. First of all, there's not a heck of a lot of other property around, but a more evolutionary approach is probably the best thing, in my opinion, as a systems analyst, as an executive. And that you take the best of both worlds and you evolve them, you get them all working together instead of fighting with each other and arguing with each other, and you evolve. That means everybody has to give a little bit and you have to get moving. Now, getting moving. The reason we have to get moving is because we have a recession, a pretty bad recession. A lot of people don't have jobs. That has put pressure on our town to look for these kind of opportunities, to save money and to improve our test scores. They can be both in the same thing. It's in this for everybody. Now, there has been problems in the town with people not wanting to go this year to merge the schools, merge the grades. For example, putting 7th and 8th grade up at Gilbert. Let's wait till next year. Well, Selectman Fracasso and others have been pushing very hard to let's get it done now. And I think the town manager falls in that category, although he has made statements in the paper that say, well, let's make sure we do it and do it right. So that's important. Nobody would argue with that. So there is a second step that's happening now where the town manager is having a meeting tomorrow on Thursday. For you, those who watch this after this, it'll be the 20th of this month, which is tomorrow. And they're going to talk about trying to define a plan for integrating the school systems over time and try to get enough information to see if it's viable, if it's cost effective, how much will it save. The Gilbert people say it's going to save $700,000. The other people don't agree with that. So it's a question of the town manager getting in as a systems analyst would to get the facts on the table, nobody can dispute, and then put a plan for success together to achieve the ends. Now, I just want to give a couple tips from my past, and that is that when things were urgent, like, let's say, getting to the moon, and Kennedy said, we'll be there, let's get to the moon in 10 years. And I've talked about this on this program years ago. We had a meeting every morning at 8 o'clock, progress meeting, with the project managers. And we had another one at noon, and we had one at midnight, 7 days a week. And we were all there, and those who couldn't make it, we had them on the speakerphones. And we said to them, what do you need today, the next 8 hours? What decisions do you need from us to keep this on track, on schedule, to get there in 10 years? And they would tell us what they needed, and we get it done. We would do the air cover for them. And that's kind of what we need in our town. If we had a project manager who was positive, wasn't biased towards either party, K through 8 or Gilbert, and the town manager sat down with that person once a day with the two superintendents in tow, either on the phone or in the room, and said to the project manager, what do you need to do to get this done by September 1st? And are there any trade-offs that have to be made or any decisions made today? Then this could be done. I am confident, said the town manager, that as long as everybody pulled together and worked together, then it could be done. The only thing stopping you is not getting going. Now, he said this on April 3rd. So we've already missed a month and a half of getting this done by September 1st to save at least $700,000. Now, in the end, am I naive? No. Could it be $600,000 or $500,000 the first year? Probably. Would we have to make some trade-offs with the unions? Probably. Could it be done? Most likely. But it has to be people who want to get it done and who can make the decisions on a daily basis necessary for the project manager to get the job done. And one of the biggest obstacles here will be, if this approach is taken and we try to get it done for September, will be the Board of Education, because they've already said so. They don't want to do it by September. And on the other hand, doesn't mean they're right. So what I want to point out to you now is that everybody says, well, we, the selectmen, and we can't tell the Board of Education what to do. And my view is very simple. We have a lot of power. The Finance Board, which is the same as the Board of Selectmen, even though a lot of the selectmen don't have any business experience, has control of the bottom line for the school system. That's the leverage you need to get this done. And for example, and I don't suggest we do this, but it's the kind of thing you would do in business when you're really at a do-or-die situation. You would say, if we don't save the $700,000 by merging these grades in time, then we're going to give you the same amount next year as you got this year in your budget, or whatever is legal with the state of Connecticut and the federal government. So there are ways to get things done. The Finance Board is responsible for the bottom line of the education budget, and that's where the buck stops. And the town manager, as you said he would do in the paper recently, will go there to the Finance Board and ask for help if he thinks he needs it. Now, I want to give a suggestion quickly for two simple solutions to make the town of Winchester well balanced financially. And I want to separate these two things from all the other activity going on in town that takes most of the town manager's time and most of everybody else's time. And a lot of it is spinning wheels, some of it's sinking in this quicksand, some of it's getting things done. Well, number one, we need to concentrate on top priority. Saving a great deal of cost by integrating the school systems in an efficient manner. Gilbert has some nice advantages up there. They got 400 acres. If we had to evolve and add some more up there, we probably could. K-8 has advantages for if 7th and 8th grader moved up to Gilbert, they have advantages in handling the K-6. It'll be a different chore for them, but they should be able to do that very effectively. So that's the first thing. We got to face this issue, and we got to face it now. Putting it off another year, 2 years, 3 years is not the answer. Facing the issue while we have this good, excellent town manager and we have the wind at our sails of this recession, which nobody likes, but we have to face, now is the time to do it. And it'll pay off for years to come. And the second thing that we need to do as a town, whether we like it or not, and I'm sure that businessmen will agree with this, and I'm hoping the town manager will in the end, once he gets sizes up the town, which he's probably done already, is to produce a major increase in revenue by working with the developers to expedite the major projects along the northeast corridor and the associated sewer and water line extensions down that corridor. Those are two things that if we concentrate on as a town management, getting that revenue in. Now, it's not all within our hands. We got a recession to deal with. We got a developer who has permits and has to get more permits or change his plans or whatever. But we need to work together, just like we need to work with the schools, we need to work with the developers, and we need to come up with a successful plan for all of us so that we can plan for success, and in the end, we can be successful. So I'm taking the time to prepare this program, to go over quarterly with you, and to share my insight. And the more I see, I share the same insight as most businessmen in this town. I share the same insight as mostly as a town manager. He has different skills than I have. He has a different way of approaching things. But in essence, everything I see him doing, we've talked about on this program for over 2 years, in the length of the program. He's basically moving on with the agenda that the last administration was trying to get done, but he has, for one reason or another, he has the attention of the whole Board of Selectmen and the commissions. And I commend him for that. I hope he continues to be as brave as he is and as competent as he is and help this town to achieve the successful financial balance that it deserves. Thank you very much. Tell everybody to watch the repeats over the next three weeks or so, and I'll be doing the odd program, things done if I see the need for one along the way. Thank you very much.